Camila Osorio, one of the toughest players I've ever seen in my life. She's ranked 81st on the world tour, but she's been as high as 33. Hobart qualifiers, second round. Did you guys see what she did to Jody Burge yesterday? Now, Jody's one of those players. I think she's probably I mean, she won Stanford this past summer. I think she's a good doubles player, and I think she's kind of resorting back to her average. But taking on a former junior number one, U.S. Open Junior Grand Slam champion, and someone that just has an amazing motor. I mean, Camila Osorio, I remember a couple years after that impressive U.S. Open girls victory. And look, she's got gold medals, silver medals, bronze medals in terms of girls' games. She's won them all, right? But when it comes to the main tour, she has a signature style. And I think if you want to be good at something, especially sports, you need an identity, right? You have to know what your style is, what your game is, what you're capable of, what you can produce on a day to day basis. When we talk about averages in sports, that's what any professional player or athlete is capable of producing at any given time. When you're aware as a player, your identity, then you can produce that under extreme situations. And there's a comfort level mentally knowing that, look, I'm going to do this no matter who I'm playing. And if I do it a little bit better, there's a good chance that I can win. Now, let's take a look a few years ago, Camilla's amazing season, right? She literally she didn't make the Australian Open qualifiers. She didn't make the main draw because Clara Burel took her out in the third round. But she did come back and she made the French Open right before losing to Madison Bringle. She made the Wimbledon draw where she took out Panna Yodvardi, amazing win, Nuria Diaz, Anna Kalinskaya, Ekaterina, before losing to Sabalenka in straight sets. She then went to New York, made it to the second round before losing to Ons Jabeur. She is solid in her style. She's a defensive powerhouse. One more ball in play is the motto of the defensive player. And look at this. Look at this. Sean is just frustrated here. She was up a break to start the second set, and Camila Osorio is just on her. She doesn't stop. Her stamina is amazing. She's relentless. And listen, we talk about the double fault hit list, right? We had a couple years ago. Camila was on the list making a ton of double faults. Vivaro was on the list. Elise Mertens was on the list. And there's a few more players. But right, Sabalenka was on the list. But she's maintained, she's controlled it, right? She's controlled the double faults. She's not really beating herself. Now, her numbers aren't great in this match. She's getting 62% of her first serves in play. She's winning 65% of them, 56% on the second serve. She's got 7 opportunities. She's had 7 opportunities to break Sean. She's converted on a few of them. But her defensive effort just pressures her opponents to where she's winning nearly 80% of Sean's second serves, 50% of her first serves, and she doesn't stop. She's a good shot maker between the lines, all angles of the court, and her stamina and mental toughness, her will to win, is going to have her in any match. I mean, very rarely do you see Camila Osorio just get blown out of the water. Now, even that match with Iga Swiatek last year at the Australian Open, Iga said in the post-match interview, this match was a lot tougher than the score. She is a very tough player. And listen, I've been saying this about her for years. She's amazing. Now, let's talk about identity. Let's pivot for a minute. This is what makes players great. They know their identity. Look at all the great teams in history, the great athletes. They have an identity. They have a strength that if they get their way, they're going to win and dominate. Now, someone that comes to mind who's kind of in between finding their identity is Sakkari. And this is why I think Sakkari has struggled we could say the last 4 to 5 years on tour, struggling to be, aside from Mexico where nearly everyone pulled out and she took out Carolyn Dolehide. This is why Sakkari, 23, 24, 25, 26 quarterfinal or semifinal appearances without winning a title. This is why I think she struggles, because she doesn't really have an identity. Sakkari says if you ask her, her bread and butter, her best shot is her serve. Well, there was a time where in 1920, Sakkari was pretty bulky. Then she just got skinny all of a sudden, right? That was a little bit weird. Her serve is not overpowering opponents. Coco 128 miles an hour. She's overpowering opponents. Alicia Parks, Elena Rybakina, Sabalenka, they have a good serve, and you know that. Zachary, not really. Okay, well, what about Zachary's backhand? Not really. We know Coco has a backhand that's her bread and butter. We know Emma Raducanu has a top-notch backhand, right? When we're talking about identity, I don't think Zachary has a real identity. Now, if you watch Zachary play, she has a slice she uses to buy time, but it's just not effective. It is just, and this is my opinion from watching her play, it's just not effective. What is Zachary's identity? Now, I think she's athletic. I think her net play is improving. Is she a baseliner? Does she play her best tennis mid range? Does she want to focus on serve placement, down the tee, jam the. What is she really? What is her identity? She's not a defensive player. She's not a long rally player. She does Her top spin is one of the worst inside the top 10, but she's good enough to just hang around inside the top 10, the top 20 and make the WTA finals every year because she's that good. But I feel if she focuses on one particular thing, just find an identity. And look, she said herself she thought about retiring because she's not a spring chicken anymore and she doesn't have many years left. We know that. So the reality here is, I think if she can just spend the next couple of years focusing and mastering one thing, that could be the difference maker of Zachary finally winning a Grand Slam. Now, listen, this video is all over the place, but the base of it is identity. Camila Osorio has an identity. She has great stamina. She is a defensive player. She's a good shot maker, and she wins points by out hustling you to the ball. That's her identity. I feel if Zachary can just maybe if she says her serve is her best shot, just go in the gym and just work on more strength, work on different serving situations because I feel that's something she doesn't do right now. There's no reason Zachary should have made that many quarterfinal and semifinal appearances without winning titles. That's because identity. I think she lacks a real identity. Look at someone like Pegula, who doesn't necessarily have an identity, but she does everything really, really good. Serve placement is good. Baselining game is good. Her net play is good. She plays a lot of doubles. Her mid range is good, right? And she doesn't beat herself mentally. She said herself, and add this to Pegula's identity. She is a situational leader, right? No matter what the circumstances, she finds a way to win. So take a look at some of the players for this 24 season and say, what is their identity, right? And if they're not doing well or you think they're struggling, it's probably because they haven't really found an identity or they don't have one. But the top players, the elite players in this game, they have an identity. We know what they want to do. Iga Swiatek, amazing footwork, right? She loves to take the ball early, speed her opponents up. Short rally player, aggressive, loves to put the pressure, keep her opponents on the back foot. We know Iga's identity. She's a great player. Arena Sabalenka, very powerful serve, strong 1-2. She wants to overpower you, pressure you to the point where you're making mistakes, speed her opponents up to where they can't hang with her pressure. We know Sabalenka's identity. Elena Rybakina, amazing serve, right? If she's not scoring with an ace, then she's gonna back you up with her deep baseline shots. Her baseline shots will extend at least 8 to 10 feet beyond the baseline to where you can't even get yourself into the rally. All right. It's all about identity. Camila Osorio has a solid identity. She is a solid player, and she's going to make Hobart, guys. Watch out for her. She's on the rise. Tennis in a minute. I'm your host, Good Energy. We have some finals to be played today. We have Auckland, Coco versus Svitolina, two of my favorite players, and Sabalenka versus Rybakina. That's going to be good as well. Tennis in a minute. Like the video. Comment below. Who's your favorite player and what's their identity?